This video talks about a piece of media that contains excessive amounts of bloody violence, strong language, and suggestive material that some people may find offensive. I do not apologize for anything, and I'm very proud of showing everything to the fullest. The video will also contain spoilers for said piece of media, and it's intended for mature audiences only. If you are uptight, puritanical, easily offended, or lacking a sense of humor, do yourself a favor. Click on something else on the screen or close the tab and just move on. Seriously. No need to get upset over edgy or lewd humor. Those that don't care and want to hear my thoughts anyway, welcome. It's great to have you here. Enjoy! Memes. That word just sticks with you, doesn't it? It's definitely a term that makes us who we are, from where we live, what we learn, and what ideas we can come up with or take from. Memes are culture, passed on from one person to another. Though memes can be imitated, we can also take those memes and make them our own. We can create our own path and find something worth passing on to the next generation. When done properly, memes are the true progress of humanity. Or memes could just be defined as making funny shitposts. Now, why the hell am I telling you all of this? Cause I'm talking about one of my favorite games that served as my personal stepping stone of getting into one of my favorite series. After playing Metal Gear Rising, I went straight to the beginning of the series timeline with Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. From then on, I was hooked. That's what got me from asking the question, who is Hideo Kojima, to... Oh yeah, Kojima! Where Kojima? Can you believe it's been 10 years since the release of Metal Gear Rising Revengeance? 10 years of hacking and slashing, 10 years of cutting enemies to pieces, and 10 years of memes! Exquisite. It has left quite a legacy that has kept people playing and talking about it all these years later. That is one part of the true meme of this game.
That game you love so much? Want to know how we got it? Actually, why don't we give you a demonstration? I think it's time for Jin to let her rip.
Under Kojima Productions, it started development as Metal Gear Solid Rising, a title that would have taken place between Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty and Metal Gear Solid 4 Guns of the Patriots in the series chronology. The game would have followed Raiden, who debuted in MGS2 as he became a cyborg ninja. The story was going to be darker in tone and would depict Raiden going against the Patriots and rescue a young Sonny, Olga's child and Otacon's then adoptive daughter. The early gameplay was close to the final product. Raiden could cut through the environment and enemies like butter, and introduced the freeform blade mode where you can cut anywhere with a geometrical plane. They also introduced the Zandatsu concept, where if aimed at the right spot, you would take the enemy's innards and absorb their power. Being that MGS4 was a huge, ambitious title that chronologically ended the series, Hideo Kojima went for something a bit smaller by putting focus into a new game that would then be called Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker. So while he went to make that game with most of his staff, he gave the go-ahead to the rest of the Kojima Productions team to make a spin-off. Minishi Kimura was going to direct this version of the game, but as time went on, even after revealing it at E3 2009, development was not going so well. The team had a good concept in place, but without Kojima's guidance, the team were struggling on what they wanted the game to be. Would it have stealth or just melee combat? What would be the core of the game? I mean, if they tried to put their heads together, they could have implemented both of them well, or have them be optional. Eventually, Kojima did become involved while multitasking with other projects, like supervising the MGS HD collection with Bluepoint and developing the DLC for Peace Walker. So yeah, it was a mess. Seeing the project not get anywhere, it was quietly cancelled. But the concept of being a cyborg ninja cutting enemies to pieces wouldn't be entirely shot. Hideo Kojima handed the project over to Kenji Saito and Atsushi Inaba of Platinum Games, the studio behind action games like Vanquish, Bayonetta, and later, Nier Automata. Kojima would be a supervising director, giving them their blessing to do whatever they want with it. Renamed Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, Platinum scrapped the original idea of it being a midquel and advised Tamari to write a story that took place after MGS4. But don't worry, the story events that would have happened on screen in Solid Rising were given a passing explanation in an optional codec conversation near the end of the game. Like I said, not entirely shot. As for the story for MGR, Platinum made something simple that would be accessible to non-Metal Gear fans and action game enthusiasts. And god damn did they succeed. MGR is also the first title I played from Platinum Games, and it made me check out the rest of their catalog. Now that I have the aforementioned titles under my belt, I can definitely see some of the DNA implemented in this game. They probably didn't count anyone to become a Metal Gear fan after playing Revengeance, but this game sure as hell made me one. I know I can't be the only one, so please, let me know in the comments. Did the game make you a Metal Gear fan after playing this one first? Did you go into any of the other games knowing it wasn't going to be like this, but still got hooked? Anyway, that's it for the summarization. Let's cut to the chase. No pun intended, I swear. We're talking about why this game is so awesome! Going to point this out first, I'll be giving out the entire story from both the main campaign and talk about the events of the DLC chapters when necessary. The latter stories were sold separately in the console versions, while the PC version gives you the complete package. Again, this entire story takes place after MGS4. The complexity of the prior stories are gone. No more Sons of the Patriots system, no more Patriots AI, and no more war economy. At the end of Raiden's arc in that game, he was given a new body so he could live a happy life with his wife Rosemary and their son. I am the storm that is approaching. That's not Virgil, his name's John! Anyway, Raiden still has to financially support his family. So he signs a contract for a private military company called Maverick, which specializes in VIP security and the like. At least he won't have to do direct combat situations, or not as often as he used to. During an escort mission protecting the African Prime Minister Nemani, they get attacked by another PMC organization called Desperado Enforcement, particularly Samuel Rodriguez and Sundowner. Besides the tutorial in the beginning of the game, you get a taste of what the combat is like. It starts simple enough, but all the mechanics come into full swing after this prologue. Desperado want to bring back the old war economy, and just to show that they mean business, they pit Raiden against a Metal Gear Ray unit as they take off with Nemani. You bastards! This opening boss sets the standard for what the rest of the game will be like. Raiden, through the strength of his cyborg body, single-handedly brings down this mecha behemoth!
Wide open! Хорошо, very good. But do not rest easy just yet, huh? That you cheat. It still works?
Oh, you're still moving? You're still approaching me? Well, let's cut down the rest of your armor, wall run on a clock tower, and slice you in half. Kick ass! Raiden is able to catch up to Sam and Sundowner on a train, but it's too late.
All we're saying, give war a chance!
God damn, that's brutal. Sundowner escapes, leaving Sam to deal with Raiden.
Self-taught, and not half bad. Still. Your technique lacks something. Now I see. You deny your weapon its purpose. It yearns to bathe in the blood of your enemies, but you hold it back. No. My sword is a tool of justice. This is what happens when you bring a tool to a sword fight. It's over.
Before Sam could deal the finishing blow to Raiden, he realizes he stalled him long enough to reach the end of the tunnel. He gets forced back by Maverick's reinforcements for the time being, leaving Raiden defeated and humiliated. We cut to 3 weeks later, and Raiden is equipped with a new cyborg body. He starts taking on missions where Desperado are directly involved, so he may track down Nemani's killers and claim his Revengeance. Maverick provides help on his mission, the big Russian teddy bear Boris, Kevin, who provides intel on the mission, a data analyst and the Mei Ling of the team, Courtney, and German scientist, Doctor. Not Doctor, Doctor. Starting off, he takes on a mission to foil Desperado's assistance with Andrei Dolzaev's coup d'etat in Abkhazia. With that terrorist being the main target of the mission, we make it to the beachhead, and this is where more of the gameplay mechanics blossom. As promised in Metal Gear Solid Rising before it, the final product is a hack-and-slash action game with light and heavy attacks, but the game is more high-octane and over-the-top than the original version. You get battle points based on your performance in the stage, and you use those battle points as currency to buy new skills, costumes, health, and energy. You can even level up your sword based on strength, energy, and absorption. You can access the customized screen either at the end of the stage or during it via codec. You don't get to start off with a dodge maneuver until you unlock it much later, but it makes up for it with the main abundance of blocking and parrying enemy attacks. It's simple enough, and will be your best friend in combat. When the enemy is highlighted red, you can parry in that direction at the right moment to counter and or stun your opponents. At first, I found it too overpowered, as you would likely won't get hit a lot of the time, but as you progress, they won't make it easy. It comes down to how you strategically take down enemy cyborgs. They will still find a way to mix things up with a wide variety of enemies and weapons. Some can even take more damage until their limbs or entire body are highlighted blue, signifying when to cut them up. Enemies can even charge at you when they're highlighted yellow. It's completely unblockable and you have to keep a distance when it happens. So as long as you're paying attention, Raiden's growing movesets can help you in the long run. If you have enough energy, you can stun them and enter the most satisfying thing in the game, Blade Mode. Time slows down and you cut them up like meat. Despite being cyborgs, their blood is red as it can be. When you aim and cut directly at the red box during this mode, you can perform the Zandatsu to take an enemy's power source and absorb it to bring your health and energy meters back up so you can continue to use it. Those definitely look like spinal columns I'm tearing out. There has never been a game like this where you can cut enemies to pieces in such precision. It's ridiculously over the top, but fun as hell. You can even take out commanding officers and cut off their left hands to collect them for unlockables. That's something Doctor informs you to do in terms of collecting data and making upgrades in exchange.
How generous.
Ich liebe Kapitalismus.
It's the same deal when finding data storage units and computers to unlock VR missions in the levels. How do you find all those things? By using AR mode, going through every nook and cranny in the specific area. VR missions in particular come in a wide variety. Killing enemies, taking them down without being spotted, heading to the waypoint as fast as possible, etc. You're ranked based on how fast you finish it, unlocking more content. Lastly, we have the stealth gameplay carried over from the other games, although it's more simplistic here. You can hide in a cardboard box or drum can, but since Raiden is a cyborg ninja, he sneaks up on enemies from behind for a silent takedown or take them out overhead when an action prompt appears on the screen. This concept was first introduced as hunting stealth. There's even sub-weapons you could use to your stealth advantage like smoke grenades or electromagnetic ones to stun them for a short period of time. Stealth isn't really necessary for most combat encounters since you aren't really ranked based on your stealth performance, which is a really odd and inconsistent choice, especially when we get to other gameplay segments and an entire DLC chapter. We'll get to those later. But when it comes to rescuing a few hostages, stealth is necessary since they will kill the person on the spot if you're seen. So stealthily kill the soldiers to save them. You get some battle points for it, and can even comedically strip them down to their underwear.
Raiden, what the hell, man? This is your idea of a good time? Stripping dudes in public? I didn't know you were into that.
Right. Sorry. It was an accident.
Sure it was. Now that we've gone over the core gameplay, let's continue further into the mission where we encounter LQ-84I, a robot dog with a fucking chainsaw on its back, which can be held by his tail. Next thing you know, they'll have a puppy with a chainsaw on its snout. Absolute genius! I think it is a good time as any to summarize this dog's story and what makes him tick. LQ-84I is a prototype artificial intelligence conflicted on the ideas of free will and obeying orders. In Sam's DLC chapter, the dog was introduced to the concept of freedom and thinking for yourself. He briefly considered it, but out of fear of getting his memory wiped by Desperado, he has no choice but to obey the orders he was given to execute Sam and stop his infiltration of World Marshal. I'll go into that later. This leaves Sam to put the dog down. No pun intended, again!
How did you? You fight because you're forced to. I fight because I choose to. My design is flawed. Now, I am quite good, you know.
Sometime after Sam joined Desperado, the dog was repaired and fought with him in a few missions, looking up to him. In his own DLC chapter, he was given VR training in Desperado Enforcement, but is not like the other units when it comes to his kill count. One of the Winds of Destruction, Mistral, supervised his performance and decides to take him to Abkhazia so that he could bring freedom to the country, along with another member named Komsin, who Mistral was planning to betray. She decides to let the dog off his leash, so to speak, fucking puns, deactivating his range inhibitor. But in order to make sure he goes AWOL, LQ-84I takes it away from her. Stealthily fighting his way to the shoreline, a huge fight escalates with Komsin. The dog is able to overpower him with freedom close at hand. But Mistral deceived him, turning his range inhibitor back on. Now we get back to the events leading to Raiden's encounter with LQ-84I. This scene closely mirrors when the Mecha Hound first met Sam.
Okay then, what's the meaning of life? Why are we here?
I am here to kill you.
That's it? Pretty simple thinking for such a mighty intellect.
I may analyze orders, but I may not disobey them. Should I disobey a direct order, my memory would be wiped. I must destroy you.
What good is an intellect if you can't use it?
Your taunting is pointless. Exterminate!
I can't begin to describe how well done this is. Though the game may seem like the simple black and white conflict on a surface level, the writers still put a great deal of thought into writing the characters and what arcs they go through. You have some badass music building up to the action too. I'm My Own Master Now is one of many character-centric themes to go so well with the bosses you fight. The lyrics convey the wolf, who is chained and forced into battle, but wanting to break those chains, to be free. This won't be the only time I'll be talking about the music. This soundtrack is mad iconic. As the fight continues, LQ-84I calls for backup in a couple segments, and you deal with them in the same way as you do the other enemies before. With nothing left, he charges in to take on Raiden himself, only to finally get cut down to size again.
Directive, liberate, nation, ensure freedom. Obey directive. Must obey directive. No freedom. Freedom on device.
What would an AI know about freedom?
After this mission draws to a close, Raiden and Maverick recover the dog's remains, recruit it as an ally, and rename him Blade Wolf, finally giving him his freedom. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. The rest of Chapter 1 consists of getting to the refinery and confronting Mistral, the woman who monitored Blade Wolf and the one helping in the Abkhazia coup d'etat. As Raiden confronts her, she reveals all she knows about him back in his days fighting as a child soldier in the Liberian Civil War, including his nickname Jack the Ripper due to how high his kill count is. She sees herself the same way as him in terms of a similar past. She was orphaned at a young age due to the Algerian Civil War, she got revenge on her parents' murderers, found her calling in killing people, served under the French Foreign Legion, and built a huge kill count herself in wars. Later, she found it to be boring and grew jealous because her victims had causes to fight for. Until now, that is. Raiden still stood his ground as he believes in protecting the weak. That is where the similarities end, and they end up fighting. Well, that's a lewd way to prepare for battle. Something's gotta turn her on somehow. She's not gonna get it from Raiden. He's married, remember? By the way, Mistral has got a nice ass on her. Who am I kidding? Every character has got a nice ass. Ass over here, ass over there. If tactical espionage reaches the point of emphasizing the body's best parts, I'm all for it. Especially cyborg asses. Anyway, this boss fight with Mistral is also well done. Fits with another kick-ass theme. Mistral puts use of many dwarf geckos in case Raiden cuts off some of her arms and destroys her pole arm / whip in the right moments. These tripod arms can also go out of their way to disrupt you while fighting her, so hack away to give yourself some breathing room. As for the character theme song, A Stranger I Remain, it obviously conveys a constant stranger who only considers the battlefield her home. Some of the lyrics are also sung in French, owing to Mistral's partial heritage. I also give credit to the sound mixers of the game to have the lyrics kick in during the climax of the boss battles. Once that battle's done, we see it's too late to capture Dolzaev as he ensures that Abkhazia is free from Russia, blowing himself up and the plant with it. On to the next mission, Raiden and Blade Wolf are dispatched to Mexico and we see...
I'll blend right in.
Hey audience, does this offend you? We're only appreciating Mexican culture like any other. And yes, this is an unlockable costume. I fucking love it.
Adios, amigos.
Anyway, Raiden and Blade Wolf infiltrate the sewers to find a hidden research facility. Along the way, he rescues a boy named George who is a lab escapee. Using the intel from the boy, they find the lab, and this is where things take a pretty twisted turn. Raiden and the group discover that Desperado are indeed using the lab to surgically remove brains from kidnapped children and put them in cyborg casings. In order to gather more info about the facility, Raiden takes a dump to hijack a dwarf gecko. No, seriously, that's what it's called.
Perhaps. But first you need to take a dump.
Wait, what?
A dump? A digital optical output mounted proxy.
He hacks the mainframe and finds a bunch of files, including a video of Sundowner and another VIP visiting the facility. Through this, they find out that most of the children's brains have been shipped over to another facility in America. Courtney contacts Raiden to inform him that George was not found by the Maverick agents and got captured again. He then encounters another mech to take... Fuck you! After that battle, Kevin recognizes that the VIP in the video file is Stephen Armstrong, a Colorado senator running for president. They get info of another PMC called World Marshal who was involved in Desperado's activities, acting as their supplier of cyborg personnel. Raiden is not too keen on the idea of children's brains being shipped off like meat and being warped to become soldiers through VR training. Armstrong went far to adopting the same method as George Sears when it comes to conditioning kids into becoming killers, like Raiden was before. I'll go further into this one day when talking about MGS2. Since he had a brutal and distressing history of being a child soldier, he believes it's the right call to save them and expose Armstrong and World Marshal. But this makes things complicated to start a corporate raid since they reside in America.
And law enforcement in Denver was privatized and farmed out to...
Marshall, yes, so what? There are still laws, and it's their headquarters for Christ's sakes. You'd be heading right into the heart of a raging shitstorm.
I didn't say it would be easy. We'll figure it out once the kids are safe.
After going through a blood cryogenics chamber, which is used to preserve the organs, Raiden finds the kids, but the head researcher gives him a standoff, using chloroform in the chamber and holding George at gunpoint.
Surrender! Or decide, the needs of the many or the needs of the few.
George encourages Raiden to kill him along with the scientist in order to save the kids.
That's all I needed to hear.
But in the next scene, we see George is going to be okay. Doctor gave him a new body and pulled through. Raiden writes his resignation letter to Maverick so he can drive over to Denver, Colorado and begin his corporate raid against World Marshal. A car chase ensues, the cyborg police total his vehicle, and Raiden fights his way through the city to get there. Nothing is going to stop him. Though he may not stop the kids from becoming cyborgs, he can at least stop them from being killing machines.
Like what you went through.
We can't have any more Jack the Rippers. You saw what happened with George. You won't change my mind, Boris. This is my fight now.
Enough of that. Here's some sexiness for levity's sake.
Yes, Novarich.
Really, Raiden? Ripping off people's clothes?
Raiden, what are you doing? You left Maverick for this?
Raiden and Blade Wolf make their way through the rooftops and inside an abandoned underground railroad, which is an effective use for AR mode as night vision. They resurface as they get closer to World Marshal, until...
Isn't this all a bit much? Any decent lunatic would have quit after Mexico.
Jet's dream, Sam.
I heard you chopped the lab director in half. Old habits die hard, eh, Jack? But now here you are, the childish soldier, fighting for the children. Think about it, Jack. No matter how many Mexican kids we got, or Africans we bury, the first world looks away. No one gives a shit. Not the media, not the politicians, certainly not the average Joe. Too busy fretting over money, or sex, religion, fame. But you're a man on a mission, aren't you? Gonna fix everything. Just you and your little sword there. Solve everything with violence. Is that it?
This is where things get complicated as Jetstream Sam hacks into the holographic advertisements and challenges Raiden's sense of justice, that it's blinded him to consider that the people he's killed up to now might have been forced into doing things they didn't want to in order to afford cybernetics and have a good livelihood, eventually being sent to their deaths. Raiden is forced to hear the cyborg's inner thoughts, their emotional pain they have on the battlefield, leaving him a devastated wreck when fighting.
I thought they had a choice. A fair choice. Not like you.
People are different. As for AIs, we adapt as we learn. Just as any intellect operates, man or machine, altering the course of mankind is not among my defined directives.
I guess that's a relief.
Samuel's behavior does not match established parameters.
You know him?
Affirmative. We served together on 3 previous missions. He proved most capable.
You think highly of him?
I have always found him dependable. Until now.
We get through a segment as we finally make our way to World Marshal as Raiden is affected by the big sad. Then we are introduced to the most memorable, memeable of characters who has bathed himself in memes as much as the rain. Monsoon. His entrance is pretty badass as the segments of his body come apart and get put together again through an electromagnetic force. Despite how little of a role he plays, his entire monologue is one of the greatest moments in the game.
War is a cruel parent, but an effective teacher. Its final lesson is carved deep in my psyche, that this world and all its people are diseased. Free will is a myth. Religion is a joke. Controlled by something greater. Memes. The DNA of the soul.
He has this nihilistic view on the world due to his upbringing from a genocide that took place in Cambodia, that only the strong can survive, and the weak are preyed upon. Furthermore, Kitty! Oh, sorry, my bad. You remember earlier in my intro that memes are what make us who we are? We are who we are based on what cultures we grew up in, and what we were taught in life.
Expose someone to anger long enough, they learn to hate.
He is a product of bad memes being taught to him as he uses that genocide to seek power and survive, killing those he considers beneath him. Monsoon praises and mocks Raiden's sense of justice as exquisite, as it allows him to cope with his Jack the Ripper persona that he kept suppressed when killing people, hiding the guilt in battle until he dies. Deep down, Raiden still enjoys the killing. This gives him the push to cut the bullshit and release Jack the Ripper.
Doctor, turn off my pain inhibitors.
What? This is madness. You
do it!
All right.
Pain. This is why I fight. This is my normal. My nature.
You've lost your mind.
Oh no, he ain't fucking around anymore. No more does he need to feel for his enemy's inner emotions in battle. Ooh, crunchy.
I misjudged you. You are like us after all.
Now you're just being nasty. That nickname you love so much. Want to know how I got it? Actually, why don't I give you a demonstration? I think it's time for Jack to let her rip.
Now that is one hell of a way to start a boss fight. From learning about memes, to letting out your true self, to Quinton Flynn's badass psychotic performance, to finally more kick-ass boss music. The Stains of Time depicts Monsoon's nihilistic and hopeless views, using a gentle rain to wash away the pain and suffering, but having no effect because of it, and then becoming a violent storm, but only realize he is beyond hope. Monsoon's fight is also incredible. Back then, I used to have trouble fighting him with his ninja moves and using smoke grenades for sneak attacks, but I've come to master the parry so much, I can predict where he can attack and block. I'm very good at this game. A few fuck-ups here and there, but very minor. He then uses his electromagnetic forces to throw tanks and helicopters and split his limbs to reach Raiden at a great distance. In order to have him stop avoiding your attacks, you use EMP grenades to stun him and use blade mode to hit the red marker on his head, breaking him off to be open for attacks. He'll then use his magnetic powers to create Lorentz force. Just parry it a couple times and cut it up with blade mode. When his health is low enough, we get a very satisfying QuickTime event where he throws a stone pillar supported by the metal foundation, and we show the bastard that he is the weak one, cutting up his body and finally decapitating him.
Don't be ashamed. It's only nature running its course. Your memes end here.
No, I passed one to you. Sure as the sun will rise, the slaughter will continue. Now, I return to the earth. Wind blows, rain falls. The strong prey on the weak. All is as it should be.
Just to conclude this segment of the story, this coda conversation with Kevin at the start of Chapter 4 is also very informative, as it explores more about the concept of memes, especially in the works of Richard Dawkins in his book, The Selfish Gene.
Dawkins, a biologist, stated that even if the actions of a living thing appear to be altruistic, each of its genes is still engaging in selfish behavior. purely as a matter of survival.
Yeah, I heard about that.
He went on to define memes as a different kind of self-replicating unit. They're the genes of a culture, from fashion to chord progressions in music, even political expression. And just like normal genes, they replicate. They grow, infecting more and more people.
You buy a shirt you like and put it on. Other people see you wearing it, then buy it for themselves.
Yeah, the genes of a culture makes it all sound pretty lofty. But the way Dawkins puts it, memes can also transmit worthless things, even the bad parts of a culture. Fashion's one thing, but value-related memes can put huge restraints on people's lives. For example, the idea that having lots of money is the ultimate goal, the thing we should all strive for.
Like in the US.
Any capitalist country, really. But anyway, you catch this money worship meme, then not only are you trying to get rich, you're also spreading that idea to other people. You have to. If that meme isn't the cultural norm, then what are you working for?
So you start spreading the word about how important it is to succeed, earn status.
Right. And the really contagious memes can be even worse. For example, revenge. A guy sees his countrymen killed by terrorism, so he becomes a terrorist and retaliates. It's an infinite loop.
I think it's the same thing with child soldiers. Kids' parents are killed by other kids, so they join the war next and start killing other people's parents. There's gotta be a way to break the cycle, though.
Dawkins wrote about that, too. How we can rebel against our genes and memes. Once you're aware of your own memes, you can train yourself to identify and replicate the good ones.
And kill the bad ones.
Right.
Well, that starts with me stopping this VR shit. The Sears program's one hell of a bad meme machine.
Again, this may seem like the simple black and white conflict on a surface level, but the writers still put a lot of thought into this, not just with character arcs, but the themes as well. Or maybe writers, because I don't know if it was just Azu Tamari who wrote this, but rather Hideo Kojima himself. Perhaps he guided Tamari with that. It's no coincidence that memes and genes are at the core of the Metal Gear series as a whole. There is a lot to absorb, especially from me being as thorough as possible. It goes to show all these aspects are the true meme of this game as well. We cut to the next chapter where we finally make it inside World Marshal and we start our corporate raid.
I'm sorry, sir. Our business hours for the day have ended. We are looking forward to your next visit.
Yeah, fuck you too.
Is that correct?
After killing Monsoon and getting Jack the Ripper back, you unlock Ripper mode, which is activated when the energy bar is full and glowing red. Pressing both analog sticks activates it, making Raiden go berserk and kill every cyborg in one fatal swipe. Oh my god, this is so sadistically satisfying. I think this beginning segment of the level is also a good time as any to talk about the other sub-weapons in the game. You are to hold off enemy reinforcements until Dr. hacks one of the elevators that were shut off. There is an arsenal full of other sub-weapons like RPGs and homing missile launchers. In front are also machine gun turrets to tear through them before they can get to you. Also, if and when they get too close, you just take them on like normal. While we're on the subject of sub-weapons, you also get to use the weapons of the bosses you killed. Killing Mistral unlocks her polearm whip for swifter heavy attacks, and killing Monsoon unlocks one of its size, a long-range weapon that lets you grapple to an enemy and swipe at them. And it's always the heavy attacks with the sword that gets replaced when you select one of them. So go with one that best suits your playstyle. When the elevator is finally called, you can escape or just stay here and fight until all of the ground resistance is gone. Better to do that for battle points than a rank. Whew, I need a pick-me-up. This entire level makes the most out of this hostile takeover as you make your way through enemy resistance and climb to the tip top of the building. You also go to a Japanese garden room, which is another great way of appreciating culture. Anyway, you make your way through the freight elevators to the top of the building where the server room is ahead. After defeating spare bodies of Mistral and Monsoon in the same way as you did before, you finally make it to Sundowner, the de facto leader of Desperado.
Don't disrupt the students while class is in session. I believe you're familiar with the lesson plan. The same regimen you went through in Liberia. Effective program. Just look how you turned out. Of course, running it in the real world just got a bit too complicated. Doing it virtually, though, No fuss, no muss. Straight to the brain.
Crispin Freeman kills it here as Sundowner. He does a great job in making the character a sadistic son of a bitch that loves creating conflict and war. It makes sense for the character since he loved making a livelihood out of the old war economy. Simply put, Sundowner has a warped view of humanity being cruel down to childhood.
Say you bring this whole place down. Waltz out of the rubble with all these precious brains. Nothing changes. All the guys in charge are long gone. We've got offices around the world. We're just suppliers. We don't create the market for war.
And who does? The Patriots are gone.
Those guys just manage the war economy. They didn't invent it. Did you think every battle in history was all part of some big old conspiracy? Bullshit! War is just part of who we are. Why fight it? Anyway, none of this will matter in 3 hours. Demand for PMCs is about to skyrocket. Like the good old days after 9/11.
Oh shit! They got another war on Terra planned, even if Raiden saves the children? This has become bigger than we imagined.
Like I said, kids are cool, Jack. And I'm very in touch with my inner child.
Sundowner's boss battle starts off with him using armor plates that reactively explode when trying to attack him. The way they are placed on his person makes him look like some kind of Japanese shogun, despite him wielding dual machetes. And to think we went through a Japanese garden room before getting to him. The only way to get rid of those armor plates is when he charges at you and parry them to activate blade mode. Once you chop off the weak points, Sundowner will put both machetes on his wrist into a giant pair of scissors. It's pretty avoidable when he's highlighted yellow for a slow charge attack, so jump over. I also want to note his theme song Red Sun has a few different meanings behind it. The lyrics convey how the world or paradise changes through technology, and the environments suffer through exploitation of natural resources and human greed. It explores his views about humanity being naturally violent, and that war returns them to what he sees as their natural state. Hell, Red Sun also means a blood-stained night in Japanese culture. After a brutal war, the bloody moon is referred to a red sun. To conclude this battle, Sundowner tries to blow Raiden off the building with a chopper, but he is able to recover using a stray glider to ride upward through the building, almost reminding me of the Death Star trench run. He throws the glider at the chopper, and we finally dispose of the bastard.
It's over!
Attaboy, Jack.
What happens in 3 hours?
He'll launch Operation Tecumseh.
Who? Armstrong?
I've already said too much. I have a call to make.
Got yourself shaving?
Asshole. He's good. Real good. You knew this would happen, didn't you? Well, you'll get your
Raiden and Maverick discuss where Desperado's plan will take place. They deduce that they will ruin peace talks at Pakistan and that the US president is on his way there. In order to make it to Pakistan on time, they would have to use a spacecraft that can exceed Mach 2 speeds, so they contact Solace Space and Aeronautics. Doctor makes it to Denver airspace via helicopter and Raiden climbs aboard, but circumstances with a couple of drones leads Raiden to hijack one of them with his sword to take out the other in quick precision. Failing to make it back aboard, he falls to the cityscape below, only to survive. Raiden rushes through Denver and the remaining Desperado forces in his way and ooh, watermelons! That's one other thing that made it past the demonstration of Metal Gear Solid Rising's development. Want some? Okay, want to know what I think of Sundowner's weapons? Not too fond of very slow moving attacks. I'd rather make battles swift. Raiden finds a lone motorcycle and takes off with it. Going through the desert, he finally encounters Sam, the last remaining opponent in his way.
Raiden, having a little heart-to-heart?
I have analyzed his words and actions. I am unable to ascertain his motivation.
Fancy meeting you here.
You knew I'd come. I suppose I should thank you for not killing everyone at the launch site.
Well, not if you say it like that.
For a hired killer, you're not very good at your job.
The war is the big payoff.
Right. Big raises all around once World Marshal gets all those contracts.
I'm not talking about money, Jack. I'm talking ideals.
Excuse me?
Forget it. We've both heard enough speeches about higher causes by now. History will decide who's right. End of story.
It is time for the ultimate showdown between two worthy rivals. Who will emerge the victor?
Must you really fight?
Don't interfere.
This is between us.
And it ends here.
Okay. Let's dance!
Sam's boss fight is the moment where they cross blades again. And really, that's all Sam does. He has no other gimmicks like the Winds of Destruction had before. He uses the strength of his exoskeleton to display great skill with his Murasama sword. He can even charge at you and throw debris which can be blocked. You have displayed enough of your skill and reflexes to finally make it to this point, so blocking his attacks won't be much of an issue, especially when you get to disarm him. He'll still display great strength with his martial arts skills though, so be careful, or you'll get a face full of dirt. It's also worth noting that his boss theme, The Only Thing I Know for Real, has the lyrics kick in early when he is holding his weapon. Disarm him and the song turns into an instrumental. It sure as hell gave sound and music mixers good cause for making their own versions of these songs. Hell, even put them in perfect sync as a way to experiment and all. As for the song itself, the lyrics describe Sam and how he has forgotten the reasons why he fights, but can't stop as it's the only way he knows how to live. Once you give him a big gash on his torso, he picks up his blade again. You block his attacks and slash at him enough times, and he is dead.
Playtime's over!
Upon Sam's death, Raiden realizes that he barely had any cybernetic enhancements. The only thing that was replaced was his right arm. Blade Wolf isn't sure what to make of the outcome of this duel and deems it inconclusive.
It is likely no single correct answer exists. Additionally, human conflict stems from opposing ideals and societal norms. I was not programmed with these guidelines.
You're better off figuring those out for yourself.
Blade Wolf goes over Sam's creation of his weapon, which was taken from the original Murasama from his father and was later modified into a high-frequency blade with an ID lock. They retain the sword in memory and respect for this fallen warrior. The duo make it to Solace, and we see the security guard is a real man of culture from looking at lewd illustrations by Nanya Higashi, the artist for the Senran Kagura series. Based. Very based. Raiden and Blade Wolf meet Sunny, the child prodigy of computers, and the girl who designed the Mach 23 spacecraft fast enough to make it to Pakistan. They strap in and blast off across the world. In less than half an hour later, they make it to the airbase where Operation Tecumseh is about to kick in. Blade Wolf goes on ahead, and upon destroying the front gate security, the group discovered that Desperado's exif code came up as unaffiliated, just like in Africa. This is intended as World Marshal's alibi, framing Desperado for the attack on the president. Raiden decides to make it to the control tower so that he can cause enough damage and disturbance to get the US military to realize what's going on and turn back. But by the time Raiden gets there, Blade Wolf is seen motionless. Then the ground caves in, revealing the biggest of all mecha, Metal Gear Excelsis, and the one operating it, Senator Armstrong. We see that the whole time he wasn't intending on assassinating the president himself, but framed jihadi soldiers through Desperado using photos of the attack on the base. People on Twitter are not taking it well.
But the president was saved.
And yet American blood was spilled.
By Americans. Besides, a few dozen soldiers is tragic, but nothing to start a major war over.
That's just the spark, son. The excuse we've been waiting for. America's wanted this war for years. The Patriots, they knew war was good for the economy. 4 years later, their legacy lingers on.
The memes.
They left us their great isms. Nationalism, unilateralism, materialism. Welcome maxims for those with no faith, without guiding principles of their own. Give yourself up to the whole. No need to better yourself. You're American. You're #1. Then the only value left is dollar value. The economy. So we'll do whatever it takes to keep it humming along. Even war. Especially war.
That's a nice argument, Senator. Why don't you back it up with a source?
My source is that I made it the fuck up.
The senator goes on about his motives regarding the fall of SOP and America's decline on the economy since then. And so, with Raiden being one of the few people to complicate the message he wants to get across, Armstrong returns to the cockpit of this metal monstrosity, and they end up fighting. It's funny to me that we're a few minutes into the chapter, and we're already at the final boss, and we get 3 phases of this guy. In the Metal Gear Excelsis fight, it's not like the other Metal Gear units with an armed nuclear warhead. Instead, this behemoth wields massive arm blades and lasers, along with deploying geckos and trying to stomp you flat. You could try to parry in those instances, but it's always best to find room in the arena to dodge and even jump over blade sweeps. This boss is a rare instance where you have 2 theme songs. This first one is Collective Consciousness, which can also convey 2 different meanings. The first being the beliefs of corrupt politicians and bureaucrats, letting the weak and frail society to rot. It could also refer to the whole fight and how Raiden sees Armstrong, before revealing what his true motives will be, including his true hatred for American society and how it's led. Back to the boss battle, when you deal enough damage to the mech and take down 2 of its legs, Raiden goes in for the kill, lifting and tossing over Excelsis, ripping off one of its arm blades for a little swordplay, and for good measure, use blade mode to dismantle it. Armstrong exits the cockpit and he decides to Hulk out, infusing the energy left from the wreckage to amplify his body and strength.
Played college ball, you know.
That's some cushy Ivy League school.
Try University of Texas. Could have gone pro if I hadn't joined the Navy. I'm not one of those beltway pansies. I could break the president in 2 with my bare hands. Don't fuck with this, Senator!
This phase is where you are meant to get your ass handed to you. He has proven to be a worthy, powerful adversary. He has no problem taking any hits you throw at him with your sword.
Nice.
As Armstrong beats the ever-living shit out of Raiden, he goes on to some proud tirade of rebuilding America as a nation where people fight for their own reasons and not of the government. Ultimately, Raiden doesn't see Armstrong as another greedy politician, but rather a complete psychopath, as his methods of doing so means culling the weak and only letting the strong be free. Survival of the fittest, to put it simply. Raiden is unable to do major damage to the madman even with his fists.
Why won't you die?
Nanomachine, son!
He said it! He said it!
A worthy, powerful adversary indeed. Armstrong overpowers Raiden, leading to what's left of Metal Gear Excelsis to be blasted into oblivion.
All right. I think we're about done here.
Raiden.
Whoa.
Begin playback.
2 years I've been working towards this. And on the last day, Blondie has me downing the whole thing. We'll leave it up to fate then, shall we, Wolfie? A duel to the death. May the best man win.
Sam.
I cut him down, and that's that. Back to a regularly scheduled international incident. But if he beeps me, if I die here, the lock on my blade will disable after a couple hours. What happens after that is up to you, Wolfie.
Ha! Even dead, that guy's a pain in my ass.
I think it's an appropriate time to briefly go over Sam's DLC chapter. His story takes place before the main campaign, as he starts off as a mercenary seeking to kill Stephen Armstrong for being a corrupt politician. Sam infiltrates the sewers into the World Marshal building and has his scuffle with Wolf. Making it to the building, we see that this was all a test composed by Armstrong and Monsoon to recruit him in Desperado, due to his large part in taking out drug cartels. He goes through his own fights with another Metal Gear Ray unit among other cyborgs and mechs until he finally makes it to Armstrong at the top of the building. The two end up fighting, and while it seemed like victory to Sam, Armstrong demonstrates that even cutting a limb or two won't stop them from reaching their ultimate goal. Sam concedes and gets hired. By the time we get to this point in the main story, Sam has completely lost himself and his reason for fighting after all of this time he has worked with Desperado enforcement. I think Sam's smile in his defeat is a way of thanking Raiden for setting him free. And now that we have come to this point in the story, we get his character arc resolved, as well as Wolf's, as he finally learns to follow his own directives.
You little fuck.
I said my sword was a tool of justice. Not used in anger. Not used for vengeance. But now I'm not so sure. And besides, this isn't my sword. Come on! Okay. Let's dance.
We have now come to the final phase of the fight, the epic showdown. The music for this segment is ultimately the best out of the entire soundtrack. The song is called It Has to Be This Way. On top of it being hyped up with energy, the lyrics are about the two warriors admitting that they have to fight each other, despite there being little to no reason to fight. It also fits with this fight, as Raiden and Armstrong have come to recognize how similar their philosophies are, and coming to understand their motivations that force them into this battle. Finally, let's go over this boss. You have a weapon that can get through Armstrong's reinforced anti-shock nanomachines, but he'll still throw everything at you. He has the ability to channel fire, creating explosions in the arena. He can heal himself, which can be stopped by hitting that sweet spot on his back, and when he jumps to the top of the wreckage of Excelsis, he'll throw those remains for you to destroy in blade mode, and swiping at his face at the last moment. Armstrong can also try to disarm you, and when that happens, the lyrics fade away, just like before when facing Sam. Once you deal enough damage to him, you get one last epic QTE moment with him to damage his nanomachines and finally perform a Zandatsu to rip his heart out, ending the fight and claiming your Revengeance at last.
We're done here!
Well done, Jack.
Your dream dies with you.
Oh, maybe not. You've guaranteed the status quo will go on. For a while longer, at least. War will continue as an institution, as an industry. Men will fight for reasons they don't understand. Causes they don't believe in. But at least I'll leave a worthy successor. You, Jack. You carve your own path. Use whatever methods you see fit. You don't let legal bullshit get in the way. And if it costs a few lives, so be it. Deep inside, we're kindred spirits. You and I.
This scene ultimately shows the respect they have for each other and leads Raiden to agree with Armstrong somewhat, despite his extreme methods. In the end, with Armstrong dead, World Marshal's funding was cut, but still continues to go on, hoping a larger company will buy them. Armstrong's plan still proved successful as a new war on terror has begun.
At least Armstrong will never be president.
After retrieving the children's brains, Maverick has officially established a new cyborg corporation. They are able to give kids a chance to live life outside of poverty and conflict, with George as their new recruit, working with Sonny at Solace.
For me see that ninja, me never think I've been this kind of life.
Yeah.
Huh?
He rescued me too, you know. Saved my life. I owe him everything. To some people, he'll always be Jack the Ripper. I know all about his past. He had it rough. And he hurt a lot of people. But that's not the Raiden I know. The Raiden I know is a hero.
We then get one last badass scene closing this story, and we can only imagine what Raiden will do next.
I've got my own war to fight.
And that's Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. In the end, you get ranked based on your overall performance in the chapters. Beating the campaign on any difficulty, meeting certain tasks gives you titles, much like in the previous games. There's also more that can be unlocked by going through the VR missions, like getting more battle points to purchase other skins, like a Desperado one, MGS4 Raiden, and even Grey Fox from MGS1 along with his Fox Blade. After beating the game for the first time, you can use Sam's Mirasama as long as you want. Combine that with Ripper mode and a wig that gives you infinite energy, and you're unstoppable, no cap. Finding all the men in boxes in the main campaign unlocks the high-frequency wooden sword, and is made out of a strong mahogany material that can be used to bonk the shit out of cyborgs rather than kill them outright. Hey, you can even get a bonus for not killing them in a section. Kind of weird considering the main aspect of the game is slicing enemies to pieces, though that's more of a nitpick than anything. But what about the gameplay from the DLC campaigns? These are serviceable, especially for the overall narrative. Blade Wolf's gameplay is more about hunting stealth than the main story, and you do get bonus points for no alerts in patrolling sections. Not gonna lie, that's pretty inconsistent that they would add something like that after releasing the main story. Why aren't we rewarded for doing that as Raiden? Hell, why this random platforming bit in his VR missions? But hey, at least you can cut enemies up with a fucking chainsaw! As for Sam's gameplay, it's more or less the same as Raiden, minus the stealth. But his fast attacks, movements, and double jump are what set him apart from the rest. After 10 years since its release, Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance still holds up to this very day. This is what got me sold into the Metal Gear series in general, as well as Platinum Games. This gave me more on my palate when it comes to action games, from the crazy, over-the-top fun, to the serious and challenging, and everything all at once. It's even playable on Steam Deck, a great way to bring it on the go. I'm looking to covering more action games and celebrating the Metal Gear franchise. Besides, this isn't the only game in the series to reach an anniversary milestone. But I will always remember this as the true meme passed on to, at the time, a new fan. That's all for today, ladies and gents. Thank you all for tuning in. I will let the great Quinton Flynn, the voice of Raiden, sign us off. Thank you for being a part of this, man. It really means a lot.
Hey, thank you for having me, Jen. Okay, guys, like he said, my name is Quinton Flynn, a professional voice actor and comedian. So go ahead and subscribe to his channel and follow him on his social media. Take the time to check out my socials as well. I'm also on Cameo.com if you wish to get a message or personal video from me. Thank you. And as Raiden says, I am lightning, the rain transformed.